I wanted to talk a little bit about metabolism, and I found this study which I reference a lot, but I wanted to rattle it off. It was in 2021 called the Daily Energy Expenditure Through the Human Life Course, and it's analyzed from 6,421 people aged 8 to 95 years old using doubly labeled water, which is the gold standard method for measuring total daily energy expenditure. The finding was that metabolism after adjusting for body size and composition is fairly stable from about 20 to 60. So basically everyone that says, my metabolism is broken between, I don't know, anywhere between 30 and 60 is not lying. Obviously it's different. This is just the average, but it then declines in older adulthood, about 0.7% decline after 60. By about age 90, expenditure is roughly 26% lower than in middle-aged adults. And once again, it doesn't mean everyone's metabolism suddenly crashes when they turn 60. It's describing an average-related decline. But I wanted to know what you tell clients and what you do personally around keeping a strong metabolism.
Yeah. So my thoughts on that are that it's not necessarily, a lot of women think it's your hormones. So they're like, oh, it's menopause. I'm in menopause. So all of a sudden I'm gaining weight. Okay, well then how do you explain when it happens in men? How do you explain? So, because it does. It happens in men as well. And so it's a sticky subject because some people get really upset when you tell them it's not menopause necessarily, or at least that might be a small contributing factor. But like the study that you were discussing, and what you said earlier about losing muscle mass starting in your 30s at 4 to 8% per decade. Your muscle is more metabolically active. And so you burn more calories at rest when you have a little bit more muscle, and that muscle is declining. The other thing that starts to decline is our activity. We drive everywhere. We sit at a desk. We're working a job. We're not out doing things. And then the other contributing factor, I believe, is all of this easily accessible, highly palatable, highly processed food that we all have access to. It's not like when we were hunter and gatherers and we had to go out and fight for our food. Nowadays, food is cheap and highly palatable and plentiful. And so I think it's a combination of things. And so what I tell my clients is, it's maybe 5% of it is menopause. And then, it's multifactorial. So it's all of these things. You need to move more. So you mentioned steps earlier. So we need to move more, especially if you work a desk job. We need to build a bit of muscle because it's more metabolically active. We need to maybe watch what we're eating, maybe look at the composition of our food, a little more protein, more fiber, more whole, unprocessed foods that fill you up more so that you're less likely to go for the cake and the ice cream. And I had a client recently say, oh, it's Ramadan here. And so we're just eating, from like 6 o'clock on, we're eating, and I can't say no because it's rude to say no. And, and I said, okay. So she was starving herself all day so that, saving up calories and then overeating. And so I said, a better thing to do is to eat a little something before you go, like eat some high quality lean protein, eat some vegetables, some healthy fiber, and then and then you're less likely to kind of overdo it, because I think a lot of us do that. We sit at a desk all day and then go to parties and overindulge, and so I think it's a lot of things. And so what I try to do with my clients is I try to teach them the sort of building blocks that they need to improve composition. And then the biggest one is be patient, because people will give up long before, they're seeing results because they're looking at a number on a scale. If you look at the number on the scale, that's not telling you much. It tells you that your weight, maybe you haven't lost any weight, but it doesn't tell you that maybe you gained some muscle and lost a little bit of adipose tissue, right? So, I try to tell them, take progress photos, use a tape measure, and, and this stuff takes time. It took you time to put the weight on, and it's going to take you some time to take the weight off. And so patience is huge, I find.
Yeah, it's a very emotional conversation because, as you're saying, people are impacted differently by age, by weight, by different parts of their life, and by hormones, menopause. Some people do go through it. Some people, have a really tough time with it. Some people cruise through it. And there's no real black and white answer. But I think, like you're saying, there are principles that we can apply no matter what we're going through. And that's not to remove empathy from the situation, but it's more so to encourage action to what is possible. And what I found is, like, on the back of what you were saying, physical activity is one of the biggest drops. And I've seen it in my friend groups and in my family, and also with people that I interact with online and my clients. Activity is such a struggle to get in if you don't have a job that leans towards it. Thankfully, my steps are crazy because I have a very physically active job. I also have a natural tendency to move quite a lot, but some people don't have that. And that is a real slap in the face. And I recently had to tell someone that you're just not moving enough and you're eating too much. And like, not to oversimplify it and just say, move more, eat less. I'm a great personal trainer. That's all you have to do to have a good life.
Yeah.
That's not true. But in many cases, it is just getting off your ass and moving more. And it is just trying to create obstacles so that it's harder to reach for those highly palatable, highly processed foods.